You mean I'm actually coming out from behind the microphone and being on camera?
You're on camera now. There we go. Yeah, Gary Williams, welcome
Ooh,
to.
that's
It's a good one.
that's risky. I've usually got a face for radio.
You know? Listen, I got a face for behind the camera, which is great. So there we
Yeah.
go. But all right, let's see. We're going to scare anyone away or not, and then obviously people will be in a bit later to watch. Sort of at the end of the day, we get quite a few live, and then people jump on later. But I think we're pretty good for late evening in the US and around around the world. Gary,
Oh, great. We're going global. No pressure.
we're absolutely global, no pressure. Well, speaking about pressure, I mean, that's something you're quite used to. I mean, internationally renowned and valued. And as you can see, I've called the voice. I've put you, I've put you down sort of like as the coolest voice in powerlifting, which no one can argue with me on because I have a
One of
ruler.
the many voices.
Yeah, no. Listen, we got some great voices, but it's always, I love listening to you. And there is actually, I mean, there's quite a lot of prep and pressure. So that goes into it, which is actually something I wanted to touch on. But very quickly, for those who don't know you, the three people who may be watching eventually, who is Gary Williams? How long have you been involved in the sport? Give us a little bit of your background.
Wow, how long have I been involved in the sport? I've been involved in strength sports.
About 900 years.
Uh, yeah, it's going close. That's not grey hair. That's wisdom silver.
Yeah, oh, I love that.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah. I mean, strength sports in general. What am I? 51, so we're
Mm.
probably 30 odd years. Powerlifting for a good 20. Um, Commentating. I did my first commentary gig back in 2017 in
Sure.
Pilsen in Czechia
Right.
at the World of Quick. And that was just sort of a roll off. I coached for the Australian team back in 2017 at the World Championships in Belarus, and then got asked to do some commentary, and so I sort of threw my hat in the ring there, and it sort of all blossomed from that. I mean, it wasn't I mean, commentary was new to me, but
Yes.
speaking wasn't. I mean, I was a professor at university in health and medicine for 12 years,
Right.
so speaking wasn't new, but commentating certainly was. And I don't know how good my first ever commentary gig was, but they did ask me back for another one, so
Well,
it
there
couldn't have
you
been
go.
too bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, that was a really enjoyable thing. In regards to
Mm.
coaching and lifting myself, yeah, I've been doing it for more years than I can probably count. Um, I don't do a lot of coaching anymore,
Mm.
and that's not because I don't want to. It's more a time factor than anything. I just don't. I would love to switch back to coaching
Mm.
all the time again,
Okay.
but you know, financially, I've got a full-time job as well, and
Yeah.
and then I take up the commentary on top of that, and then my own training, and I do a little bit of coaching here and there, not for a financial thing, just to help people out
Mm. Mm.
where I can, and I'm always happy to hear from people and help people out where I can. It's something I love doing, and I love the sport. And I think most of all, I love the people in the sport.
Yeah.
Every competition is like catching up with friends. And as hard as we work throughout the day for those competitions, it just doesn't feel like work because you're surrounded by, you know, the friends that you haven't seen. You only get to see once a year, sort of thing.
And I think that's such an important point because there's something very special about the powerlifting community, right? And I think just from your side, and then we'll get into the chatting. But I love your thoughts. What is it that makes this community so amazing, so special?
Yeah, I think powerlifting is a little bit different than a lot of sports. So
Mm.
in its community, I mean, yeah, it's highly competitive, absolutely, and we're all we're all out there to do our best and to try and win medals and things like that. But but I think the community support within powerlifting is really different than a lot of other sports. And I've been involved in a lot of sports in my life. And powerlifting is probably one of the few sports where you will see someone going for a world record, and the person who currently holds that world record is the one that's cheering the loudest,
Yeah.
yeah, cheering the loudest for that person to beat their own record, or take the world championship away from them. Because I think deep down, when you step onto that platform, it's more about as much as everyone wants to be a world champion, everyone
Mm.
wants to hold a world record, but deep down, it's much more about beating yourself, um, and just having a great performance. And I think that's probably why we see, you know, world champions cheering on other people to take that world championship away from them. And it's not a disappointment. It's a great moment for a
Yeah.
lot of people as well. Yeah, and you'll see people out the back. I mean, I've known so many people to show up for competitions, and their luggage has been lost, and and everyone rallies around to find equipment for them and get everything they need. And I've seen sponsors, hand out equipment and gear to athletes that have lost luggage, or something just isn't right. And
Mm, mm.
our sponsors like SPD and Aleco show up, and here you go, you
Yeah.
know, help, here's some help. So I think that's probably another side of it too. The sponsorship in powerlifting is much more deeply engaged in the sport.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at a lot of other sports, the sponsors are there for their advertising, to get their money's worth. In powerlifting, our sponsors are deeply involved in that sport itself. They're not just there to get advertising. They're there because the sport's important to them, and the athletes and the people are important to them.
Sure. Absolutely. That's such an important point. And I think we're very fortunate 'cause the sport is relatively small, and the connection and the closeness to the sponsors are really like right there. Where whether it's buying the Lyco stuff for your gym, or SPD, and go knowing your supplier, the person who usually is the supplier in the country has been involved in the sport for a long time. So there are these amazing close connections, and it's such a great point that you make there, where everyone's willing to lend out gear and to help and to grow. And I think I remember in our last conversation where we were chatting about the Olympics, and where you said, the Olympics would be the icing, but we've already got the cake. And I think we need to enjoy where powerlifting is at the moment,
Yeah,
in
yeah,
terms of this
I would agree.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, powerlifting has grown. It's grown enormously in the last decade, and the last few years, several years, even more so. And I think one of those great things is that we haven't lost, um, that community. We haven't lost that feeling,
Mm,
and those friendships. We haven't lost that engagement with sponsors. A lot of sports grow, and they become international, and they become sort of
mm,
professional, and where and powerlifting is at that point with Sheffield as well. So it's not just an amateur sport anymore, but we haven't lost that feeling, and that connection that a lot of sports do lose when it moves away from grassroots,
yeah.
and that's quite a unique thing to powerlifting. I mean, if you look back to to the early live streams, and
Mm.
how our broadcasts have changed now.
The number of
That's
cameras, the angles,
yeah,
the energy. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I when I'm not commentating, I get to watch, I get to watch them live, and
Mm,
watch it on TV, and watch it on Eurosport, and from a professional perspective and a broadcast perspective, it's equal, with all the top sports, um,
I
and
would, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I would hesitate. Well, I think I'll be quite bold. I think it's better than certain sports because the guys who are doing it are so involved in the sport, and
yeah,
they know the sport, and they know the angles, they know the emotion, they know the moments. And I think that makes it very, very special. It's like having a professional footballer on every single camera, filming FIFA, sort of the FIFA games. But it's really special.
Yeah, and I think that makes a difference. I mean, if you look, I mean, if you consider our broadcasts
Mm.
through IPF and Eurosport, um, it is the same media team, uh, from right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So they've developed their knowledge, they've developed their understanding, they've developed this broadcast, this product, and this package over years, and so every year it gets better. Every year there's something new we introduce,
Yep.
and that makes a huge difference to the outcome. I mean, I remember our first Eurosport
Mm.
broadcast, and it was a very high pressure, stressful time, but the broadcast itself was absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely, and the pressure is there. And just on a fun note, with we were at Masters in Cape Town now, and White Lights sent a team of young guys down to take the photos.
Hmm.
And the first day, I was chuckling to myself because 10:30 at night, I think, when we were just busy with stuff in the venue, we left, and the young guys, all of them, were in the warm up area training. They were lifting, they were doing their deadlifts. And what I did notice, though, and it did show experience and maturity: bench and deadlifts, no squats. Because
Yeah, yeah. Well, look,
you don't want that the next 2 days when you got to run around and squat and stand and bend and stuff.
yeah, there are two favorite lists, particularly bench, of course,
Yep.
but yeah, you're right. I mean, you'll see us at competitions as myself
Yeah.
and Joe Whiteley
Mm.
and others, and you'll see us, when we get the opportunity, we're at the back of the warm-up room doing our own training as well. And
Yeah.
that's always an enjoyable thing. It's a moment we get to engage with all our friends and
Yeah.
all the athletes that are out there as well, and they're often around helping, and as much as I've been in this sport and coaching and in equipped for such a very long time, to grow a lot of gray hair, I still get out there and I still learn things from other athletes, from other
Mm.
coaches. And I'll change the way I train, or adjust my technique a little bit on what I pick up from you know all the people out there and all the people that I meet. And I think that's one of the great things, is that um, we keep learning and we keep growing and we keep developing as
Mm.
athletes and as coaches, and as a commentator as well.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
you mentioned China.
yeah.
We were at the World Games. Of course, World Games, absolutely fantastic. We had Classic and Equipped, which was absolutely amazing to have both of them
Mm.
at the
Mm.
World Games. And I had the opportunity to work with a professional sports commentator whose job is to commentate sport around the world.
Mm. Mm.
So that was, for me, that was a quite an experience, for two reasons. I mean, I got to learn and work with someone that does this solely for a job. And I also got the opportunity to benchmark myself as a
Mm.
commentator
Mm.
and
Mm.
as a professional as well. And that was something you don't often get to do, is to work with people outside of our sport. So that was a really good opportunity to sort of work with someone outside of our sport who does this for a sole income.
Absolutely amazing, and I want to touch on that a little bit more. But if we talk about sort of world games, it can, for those who don't really know or may not have an understanding, and also, if I may be so bold as to say, we got quite a few people coming through on YouTube, Facebook, and primarily on Instagram. So if anyone's got a question about the sport, you may end up with a whole bunch of new rule questions. Maybe we can leave that out. But just Gary, I'm sure you'll be happy to answer them, and we'll put them to you. So drop
I,
a question in the
I,
comments.
I feel like I feel like Garrett Bentley might be out there setting me up for
Yeah,
this. I'm pretty sure I dropped a few doozies on him when
yep.
he was doing this.
I see he's actually just logged off. He'll probably log on as someone else to lull
Yeah,
us into a false sense of
yeah,
security. There we go. Yeah, he's logged on as Power Crocs. There we go.
yeah. That sounds like Garrett. Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah. Garrett's an interesting story. When I met Garrett, he's I mean, he's one of the people you talk about. You talk about, great people in the sport.
Oh yeah.
He's one of those great people. I mean, and there are so many great people that I don't want to go dropping names because,
Mm-mm.
I'm bound to leave someone out. But yeah, definitely one of the great people. out there as well.
And an absolute character. And for when was it, 2023 World Bench, new TC, you know, it was just national referee, got dropped in TC position. That I learned more in those few days than I did in my career leading up to that. You know, as an athlete and as a coach, it's the most incredible experience to do. But if I could give other TCs an advice, your job is not to watch the platform. Your job is to watch the tunnel and the athletes coming out. You're not there for the best seat in the house. You got to see what's coming down, because your job is to make sure that the athletes don't get called out by any of the referees for having something wrong with their kit. You know, you need to be telling them 2, 3 lifters out. So just my personal thing. But Gareth comes, you know, with his big headband, his massive hair, this huge guy, and then he had his Crocs, and he made me work, if I could put it that way, in the nicest possible way. And then last year, the year before last, at Sun City, he did the same thing to me, and I didn't recognize him because he shaved his head. So
Yeah, no,
he had me going
he
again.
does that. He does that occasionally. I mean, what you need to do with Garrett is
Yeah.
just look for the footwear.
Yep. Exactly.
And the
Correct.
footwear's a giveaway. And I've never seen anyone wear a pair of cowboy boot Crocs
Yes, the yellow ones.
until Texas. So I didn't even know they existed. So he gave us all something. He gave us all something new, which was
Yeah,
great.
I do think really that, and I hope maybe Crocs could hear this. Somebody, if you know Crocs, share it with them. We need Gareth as an ambassador. We need we need proper Crocs that with the same style, with a heel and the same comfort, so they can then qualify as sports shoes. I think if you put the strap on, that's called sports mode, it should qualify as sports shoes.
Yeah, don't encourage him.
Yeah.
Don't. He doesn't need any encouragement.
Ah,
Come on.
he's a sweetheart. It was a lot of fun. He was missed at Masters this year. Absolutely, yeah. Tell us a little bit about World Games, and I think for those who perhaps don't know, the importance of that in powerlifting getting involved now, both classic and equipped.
Yeah, well, World Games. Obviously, powerlifting's been involved in World Games for a very, very long
Mm,
time. I guess World Games is, the only way to really sort of describe it, I suppose, is your Olympics of other sports.
mm, mm.
It is very much an Olympic style event. Countries all around the world, all sorts of different sports and sports you probably won't see in the Olympics as well. For powerlifting, we talked about whether the Olympics was the goal last time
Mm,
we
mm.
spoke, and I strongly believe that that we've already achieved greatness in powerlifting
I
and
love that.
particularly with the World Games, particularly with Sheffield, and I would and I stand by the fact that sure, the Olympics would be the cherry on top, but I don't think it's something we necessarily need anymore.
Mm,
I think it would be fantastic. I think it would be an incredible thing for powerlifting to be in the Olympics. I think it'd be not just great for the sport, but great for the Olympics as well. But we're already as a sport at the pinnacle,
yeah.
and the World Games demonstrates that the level of competition at the World Games. I look back at it and it was, a lot of it's a blur because it was just so busy and so much, but to be there, um, in in the best seat in the house at the World Games, and I know for the athletes, it's very much a pinnacle of achievement to make the World Games as well. Then then they finish lifting and they come off, and there's a press room and a
Wow.
press tunnel, and it's a proper international event, and they walk down the tunnel and get interviewed, and they come into the press room and get interviewed. So for the athletes, it's new experiences for them as well. Um, and I know that they see it as such a great achievement. So we spent a week or so in Chengdu, China. The event itself, absolutely phenomenal. The organization, the venue, the people, were just absolutely phenomenal. But the level of competition was just beyond outstanding. And it's funny, I go to so many competitions throughout the year,
Mm, mm.
uh, and we see, we say that the standard keeps getting better, and it really does. I mean, it's hard to believe that the standard of competition, the standard of the lifters, coaching, everything just improves every year. And when you think, how can we possibly come any further? How can we possibly break more world records?
Yeah.
Um, and every year, world records fall again. You know, I mean, that comes down to a lot of things. That comes down to, different training
Mm.
methodologies, new research, evidence-based practice,
Can I jump
knowledge
in
around
here and
nutrition.
cause a
Yeah,
bit of a stir? Athletes,
of course.
athletes starting to understand the value of recovery and rest.
Yeah, no, but
Yeah,
that is a really good point. I mean,
yeah,
that was something. That is something that's really difficult to explain
yeah.
to new athletes as well. I mean, new athletes want to train 5, 6 days a week,
Hmm.
and trying to get them to cut down to 3 or 4 days a week is quite the challenge, because as a young athlete particularly, you don't
Mm.
recognize that rest and recovery is just as important as the training itself as well. So yeah, and we learn as coaches and a community, and as sports scientists and
Mm,
exercise
mm,
physiologists, there's more and more research, being done every day in these areas. There's more research being done in powerlifting now than there was 10 years ago as well. So coaching practices are becoming more evidence-based, rather than
mhm,
anecdotal.
mm, mm.
Um, which is a really important thing. And coaching and training is different for everyone. I mean, powerlifting, there isn't a one size fits all. Everyone trains differently. Everyone has to program differently. Everyone's nutritional requirements are going to be different as well. Technique-based training, everything is different for everyone. I mean, yeah, we certainly have our sort of box
Mm,
of
mm.
technique instructions, but you have to adjust that technique and adjust those training mechanisms for everyone's biomechanics, and we're all biomechanically different.
Yeah.
Um, some of us are built one way, some of us are built another way. I mean, I was blessed with short arms for bench press.
Bench press arms. There we
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah. Um, you know, so our science behind powerlifting is changing as well, and I think that's a big contributor to world records.
Yeah.
Most definitely, access to knowledge and information has changed a lot as well. Although that can have its negatives as well.
Mm,
I
mm.
mean, sometimes too much information has a negative, and unfortunately, not everything you see on social media will be helpful. So that can be detrimental. But I definitely believe that our access to knowledge, and access to real information
Yes.
and evidence-based information, is a big contributor to the progress of our sport as well.
Yeah, and Gary, that's such an important point that you made, because I think there are so many, I think there's such an abundance now of amazing coaches that are available. I mean, if I look at South Africa, sort of back in the day, you had one or two coaches, and now there's dozens that are really capable of taking athletes, at least to a national level. To win, and then there's a lot more that can go to international level. But it's vital that the athletes look for a coach with certain qualifications, with experience, with certain standards. And given your background, and I still want to get back to China, which we will do, but what should new athletes be asking their coaches, and what should they be looking for in coaches? Because I mean, it's
Yeah, I
you
mean,
meet
that's
you coaching, you coach coaches as well. It's not just athletes. You got coaches reaching out to you all the time. It's those conversations in the warm up area, in the weight room, that you're getting.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. There's a couple of things when you're an athlete and when you're a coach. There's a couple of things you need to consider, particularly
Mm,
as an athlete. I mean, um, you have to, as an athlete, you need to have a relationship with your coach.
yeah.
It's a really important thing. So experience aside, knowledge aside, qualifications aside, um, you have to have uh, it's a quite an intricate relationship, but you have to have a relationship with your coaches. Um, your coach also has to be able to understand you as a person, and understand you as an athlete, and be able to recognize, those points where, you might not have a deload schedule, but a good coach that knows you well will recognize when
Mm-hmm.
that point comes. Um, in regards to experience and qualifications, um, I think experience goes beyond qualifications.
Mm-hmm.
Qualifications are really, really important, but you don't have to be a great coach to have a million qualifications.
Absolutely.
You can go through the processes of getting your, you know, coaching certificates and strength and conditioning certifications and all those sorts of things, but it doesn't necessarily make you good at it, and it doesn't necessarily make you, the right coach. So I think
Mm-hmm.
experience on top of that will always win. And if you can find someone that's got international experience, um, that can make a big difference as well. And I would also suggest find someone that's got experience, a platform competition experience.
That was my next
Uh,
question. Yeah.
yeah, I mean there's a big difference between a platform coach and a coach.
Mm-hmm.
There are some people that are really, really good platform coaches, and just know how to manage and handle an athlete, know how to read the numbers well
Mm,
and quickly, and make those adjustments. And at the same time, that your coach and even your platform coach needs to be able to read you as an athlete.
mm-hmm.
Uh, it's all well and good being able to read the numbers and say, okay, we need this much on the deadlift to win a bronze medal or a silver medal, and that's great. But you've got to know whether your athlete can actually do that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And and
you know,
and
uh,
also what they're telling you versus what they can actually do. Because you've got to know how much they're caught up in the moment, what is their body and their form and their lifting telling you versus what they may want to tell you because they may not want to let you down as the coach.
yeah,
So
very much. I mean, look,
mm,
when you come off the platform as an athlete, and you've just had a good lift,
mm.
you're at your absolute pinnacle of hype. And I mean, as far as
Add
I can come,
500, coach.
yeah, I can come off the platform after 250 kilos and tell my coach to put it on 300 because I'm pretty sure I can do it.
Yeah.
uh I'd be wrong,
Yeah.
and I'd be stapled to the bench. So you've got to have your coach needs to be able to see through that and see past that
Mm,
and have a good understanding and be able to talk to you in a way, um, that you understand that, yeah, that extra
hmm.
50 kilos in your bench press is just stupid. uh
Yes.
you know let's just stick to maybe 5 or 10 kilos, eh?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. And
um
they shout at me afterwards. It's fine, yeah.
yeah.
Hold
So
your
communicate,
medal.
being able to communicate
Yeah.
quickly and under pressure.
Mm,
As you know, I mean, you come off the platform, we've got a minute to put in that next attempt.
yeah.
You don't have time to stand there and over discuss it. So
Mm, mm.
so look, once you've found that coach and you're building that relationship, understand how to communicate quickly with each other.
Huh?
Um,
Mm.
you know,
So for
and you'll see that with a lot of athletes when they
yes,
come off. You'll see the ones that have that long-term relationship with that person coaching them.
it's just a nod, basically. Sometimes not even a conversation. How valuable is it for coaches to have referee experience, and perhaps even at national, international level?
Yeah, that's always a tough one. I'm not a referee,
Mm.
and I don't
Technically,
do
yeah, but
refereeing.
you're doing the
You know,
commentary and the announcing, so technically that counts.
yeah.
You're the smartest referee there. You don't have to wear a tie.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no pressure. So
yeah.
yeah. Um,
Flipping
yeah,
genius.
so yeah, I don't think I wouldn't say being a referee or having
Mm,
referee experience is essential.
mm,
Um, but I think having a very deep understanding of not just the rules, but of the referee's position as well. I mean,
mm.
that's one of the toughest. It's one of the toughest jobs in the
Sure.
house,
Yeah.
and every competition. I mean, referees cop unfair criticism.
Mm,
Um, and I'm not going to sit here and say that every referee is perfect. We're human. Um, that's the way it is. You have a split second to make a
mm.
decision. Uh, and unfortunately, referees, do cop the end of a lot of criticism at times. So I think for a coach, it's really important to understand the referee's position. And you're not always going to agree with the referee. But understanding the referee's position, I guess, helps you manage it better,
Yeah.
and manage your athlete better as well, and know how to communicate with that athlete. When they're the third squat in, and they've red lighted on the first two squats for depth or
Mm,
something like
mm.
that, and your athlete's convinced they're deep enough, and even you might feel that they're deep enough as well. You've got to find a way uh, to communicate, and to find a way to get them to understand, and understanding the referee's position helps with that as well.
Yeah.
But also understanding, and as a coach, understanding your athletes. I guess it comes down to a bit of sports psychology as well.
Yeah.
So it's probably something to note, if you're looking for a good coach. Actually find someone that maybe has some experience in sports psychology as well,
Mm, mm,
because that can be a very useful tool. I think I was coaching at World Championships in Sweden with an athlete, and she'd missed her first two squats on depth, and they weren't deep enough. I'm not going to deny that. To really get the motivation
mm.
going, we turned to a bit of sports psychology, where I went to the jury and pretended to have a heated argument with Robert. I think Robert Keller was on the jury at the time, and
Oh, and poor
I'm pretty sure
Robert.
he recognised what I was doing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
we pretended to have a very heated argument about the depth on her squat, and I pretended to come back very upset and very angry,
Yeah.
uh, which provided some motivation and some anger to sink it as deep as she possibly could,
Yeah.
and
I'm going to
get the
show
third squat
Coach
in.
was right.
Yeah, yeah, so
Oh, brilliant.
yeah, so yes, sports psychology plays a big role in a number of
Mm,
ways,
mm.
with athletes as well. So a coach with some knowledge and experience in sport psychology is definitely a useful tool.
Absolutely. I mean, and it's huge. I mean, it's funny you mentioned that. I mean, Sweden 2019, you were announcing, and I had Simon Bretsky, my lifter, then he missed his first one potentially on
Hmm.
depth. And I know with Simon, just like he has, keep him in the zone. So me going to the jury wouldn't have been a great idea to leave him there with his thoughts, rather just to keep talking. And then he got his next two type of thing. So it is that understanding of what's going on in the head and the heart, absolutely invaluable as well. And then for young coaches, how do they develop that? Is it just time on the platform with your athlete, or time at the
Yeah, I think
platform in the coach's box? Sorry, I'm becoming the TC
I,
again.
no, I think it's both.
Yeah.
I think good coaches should also have
Mm,
competed at least a little bit.
yeah.
I don't think you can really understand the athlete's perspective otherwise. I mean, I honestly, I've been very, very privileged, and very, very lucky. I mean, so my background started at university,
Mm,
with degrees in physiology and areas like that. So I was quite privileged to study sports psychology and biomechanics and biochem and all those things as well, which has allowed me to apply that evidence-based background to coaching. But I think for young coaches, you know, it's just that experience, and
mm,
and and my experience throughout the years definitely outweighs my education. Um,
hmm.
Without a doubt. Education gives you the base knowledge or the basic tools.
Mm.
And then how to use those tools comes from experience.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, as you said, I really, and I completely agree, you need that time on the platform competing if you want to be a better coach. It's invaluable. And I think it really does separate because you know what's going on. You know what it feels like to come out with the lights, and then maybe you see the audience, maybe you don't see the audience. The ref, you're not in your head and you're going to beat the command. And I think I shared with you last time my favorite story. Not thinking I hit depth halfway up on my opening squat at nationals and then going down again. And Rodney
Yeah,
Anthony
that makes, yeah. I mean, why not? Let's just do let's
just
hit the
show depth
platform and
again.
do
Yeah, yeah,
reps.
yeah.
Let's do some reps.
Let's do some reps.
Um,
Poor Rodney Anthony.
yeah,
What
look,
the
I mean,
hell?
it's a funny thing. I mean, it doesn't matter how experienced you are.
Yeah.
I mean, you can see seasoned
Mm.
athletes missing commands
Yeah.
and making what we would call rookie errors.
Mm.
But it's hard. I mean, in sport, in any sport, and this goes for all sports, when you step out onto the platform or the stadium, or the mats in martial arts and
Mm. Mm.
taekwondo, your adrenaline peaks, your heart rate peaks. You get very closed up in the moment, and sometimes your adrenaline and your emotion just takes over.
Yeah.
No matter how experienced you are, that happens,
Absolutely.
and that goes across every single sport there is. Um, you know, so yeah, it's not unusual to see seasoned athletes make mistakes, and it's certainly not unusual to see new athletes make mistakes or do reps on the platform.
Mm.
Um,
Yep.
you know, but you know, the more experience you get, the more you learn to manage those
Mm.
emotions and manage the adrenaline, and use it to your
Yeah.
advantage, as well.
That's
You
such
know.
a great point. How important, just as a coach, as someone who's had a lot of platform time and seen a lot of lifting as well from the commentators chair, letting the lift, if you don't get the lift, how important is it to let it go? Because I mean, how often do you see young athletes beating themselves up about something that they can do nothing about, and now it's going to mess with the rest of their lifting? So also then maybe as an add-on question, how dangerous can it be to come out with all of your numbers? These are the 9 attempts I want to do. Give the card to your coach. And I had that before, and I actually told the athlete, "Sorry, guys, I can't work with you on this. It's not how I'm going to coach." You literally gave me the 9 attempts. And great kid,
Yeah,
still
well,
lifting, but yeah.
let's look at lift attempt
Mm,
or attempt selection
yeah.
first. I mean that's a hard one because you finish training, peaking into a competition. You've got your plan. This is what I want to do, and
Mm,
basically, basically the second you arrive at a competition, you can throw that out.
yeah.
Um,
For sure.
you have, yeah, you have to live for the day, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. Particularly at an international. I mean, you've got travel,
Hmm.
uh, how long. When you arrived compared to when you compete, how far did you travel? How long did you travel? The different foods,
Your
the
time
humidity,
zones, your water.
time
Yeah, yeah,
zones. There's so many
sure.
factors. So I always recommend to coaches and athletes, you should be going in with a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, maybe even a plan D, and then a
Mm,
couple of Hail Marys as well, just in case. And your most important attempt selection is your first one, your
mm,
opening lift for each lift. That's number one. And second and third attempts, yeah, it's great to come in with a plan and an idea of this is what I would like.
mm, mm.
Uh, but you've got to be flexible enough to go, this is what I'd like, but this is what I can do based on my first lift. Or this is what I think I can achieve on my first lift. You know, we have the World Bench Press coming up in May.
Mm.
I still think World Bench Press is probably one of the toughest competitions, simply because there's no second chances.
Yeah, sure.
In a full power meet, you've got a chance to make up a few kilos for a mistake.
Mm. Mm.
If I miss a squat, I can probably make that up on deadlift or something like that. In bench only, I mean, there are no second chances. You got 3 lifts and that's it. You mess that first one up, and
Sure.
if you're talking about classic lifting, if you miss that first bench press up,
Mm.
that's pretty much day over. Pack your bag and go home.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of coming back from that.
No.
In equipped, it's a whole different story.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a tough competition. But in full power, the toughness is that you've also got to remember that you've got to get through 9 lifts plus warm-ups for all those lifts.
Mm.
It is exhausting. So you might have deadlifted 300 kilos in training, and that might be your plan to open at 300 and then go 320 and maybe 350. But did you do that in training after doing, warm-ups for bench press and doing 3 max benches, 3 max squats, then, and then deadlift as well? So you've got to consider that. And then, what's interesting about fatigue
Mm.
or physical fatigue is that, with the amount of adrenaline, the amount of emotion in a competition, you can walk off after your last bench press and feel absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and and it's not until you walk out onto that platform for that first deadlift that your body suddenly tells you that you are extremely fatigued, and what is usually a very, very easy lift suddenly becomes the hardest lift of your life.
Yeah. Sure. And I think it's,
Yeah.
and we see a lot of that. I think it's probably also not helping with the energy drinks, where, they're having these massive energy drinks at the beginning of the war. As soon as they're done with the weigh in, there's no predictability of when that energy is going to end. And, how much of a diuretic is it, and all of these different things. Always trying to tell lifters, listen, just stick with the double espresso, and also that's something as well, I think I'd love your thoughts on, is doing different stuff on the day of the comp. Like if you're not having energy drinks when you're training for the competition, don't have them on the day of the competition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
look, I think in all sports,
Yeah.
and not just powerlifting. I think in all sports, you know, keeping things the same is
Mm.
really important. If you look back to if you look back to rugby league in Australia,
Mm.
there was a player many years ago that people probably know, Andrew Johns, was one of the greats of rugby league, and he kept everything the same, and that included going to every game with a bag full of about 20 pairs of footy boots,
Right.
and the night before a
Mm.
game, he would try on every pair, run up and down the hallway, and pick the ones that felt the best. And he did that every single game. Nothing changed.
Mm.
And I think for athletes, it's probably a really important thing that if this is what you're doing in training, then this is probably what you should be doing at competition.
Yeah.
So suddenly throwing in, 6 energy drinks. Well, I wouldn't recommend that many energy drinks to anyone unless they want their heart to
Yeah.
explode. But
Yeah.
if you're having a Red Bull before training,
Mm.
then I don't see an issue with that at competition either.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing that, um, then I would never recommend sort of changing the way I do things on the day of a competition.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
I think I think training should be going beyond just training your lifts. Training should be developing habits, and routines and rituals as well.
Yep, I love that. Yep, the habits and the routines and the rituals for competition day, so that there's no difference. You're not putting mental
Yep.
or emotional energy, let alone physical energy, into trying something new and trying to develop it. Yep. Your thoughts on athletes tearing themselves apart if they miss a lift?
Yeah, look, that's a tough one. you know, I mean, all sports are emotional.
Mm,
I think what's really important is that you can have that self-talk and then move on from
mm,
it. You can, punish, maybe punish. I mean, punish is probably not the best word, but punish yourself if you want, but be able to move on from that really quickly and brush it aside.
yeah.
Um, the competition world is different than the training world. I mean, I I have missed so many opening lifts in a quick bench.
Hmm.
Um, I think I've only ever had one competition where I got all three lifts and equipped. Usually I miss my opener, get my second,
Mm,
and
mm.
then probably most of the time miss my third as well. Um, but
Should, should,
you know,
should
but
we get refunded a percentage of our entry fee for missed lifts?
yeah, I look, if I got refunded for all my missed lifts, I'd be a rich
Really?
man. Uh, yeah, so it's hard not to beat yourself up. I
Mm,
mean, that is a really hard thing to do. Um, so I think as a coach, you need to help your athlete learn to have that self-talk,
mm,
but also to be able to move on from it quite quickly as well. Because if you are going out onto that platform and you're still punishing yourself, you're probably not going to get your next lift either.
yeah, and that's
Um,
the thing.
you know,
You're stealing energy from your next attempt. I think,
yeah.
or
So
your next.
there's certainly nothing wrong. There's
Mm,
certainly nothing wrong with some self-talk and
mm,
some disappointment. But being able to, and someone close to me has taught me recently that um, understanding that emotion is much more important.
mm-hmm, mm,
And it's important, and they've taught me that it's important to have that emotion and recognize that emotion and be able to use that emotion, in the right way and that feeling in the right way. And that's probably for me. Um, I'm not a young man anymore, so so learning new things is great. But
yep.
for me, that that was a change in the way I see things now, as well. So that's probably something I would say to everyone is that having those emotions is a normal part of
Mm,
life.
mm,
Um, Being able to recognize them and use them and work with them. I guess that's the hard part. Um, you know, um, so yeah, you're gonna mess things up at competitions. No one's gonna have every competition go perfectly. You're gonna miss lifts. You're gonna bomb out.
mm.
If you're an equipped lift, if you're an equipped lifter or an equipped bench, particularly, you're not really an equipped bencher until you've bombed. Um, so you've got to learn. You've got to learn as an athlete and a coach that that this is a normal thing to experience.
Mm-hmm.
When we bomb, or we miss lifts, we feel like we're the only one that's ever happened to. Um, but it's happened to all of us.
Yeah.
And if it hasn't happened to you, it will. I mean, don't think that you're going to go through your powerlifting competition life and it's never going to happen.
Yeah, 9 for 9
Um,
all the time. There we go. Yeah, I'm such a good
you
lifter.
know,
I
so
got nine. I
yeah,
got 9 attempts in a bench only comp.
yeah. I mean, as Tony Cliff
Yeah,
once said to me, he said, "Big risk, big reward,"
yeah.
and that I think that was after he went one from nine.
Oh,
So, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it also depends on what you're at that competition for as well.
Mm, mm,
If you are there chasing a world championship, then you're likely going to take some more risk on your lift
mm,
selection.
mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's going to work, and sometimes it's not. And you've got to be prepared to manage that and deal with it as well.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's really, really great advice. Just as we start to wrap up, because Instagram still gives us that hour, and unfortunately, I've got to get to a funeral, which is why I'm still I went for my walk. So if everyone's wondering why I'm not in a suit, Went for a little bit of cardio outside and didn't have much time to catch my breath and get a shower because I'm a power lifter, and it's not appropriate running up and down stairs. Anyway, we've got some new rules that have come in, and it's been fun watching the comments and the memes about walking out onto the platform, and how parrot and military like we have to be, and everyone's making fun of those new rules. I notice no one's making fun of the new sleeves rule where you can have assistants. No one's commenting on that. It's only on the, that you can't have your chain in your mouth and you do need to behave. Listen, as someone who works at international level as a spotter and loader, you want the athlete to have fun, but celebrate off the platform, please. We got a bar to load. Anyway, but that's something completely different. But you said something which was, really, which stuck with me. And I think it's so important. You have the World Games and you have a press tunnel and you have athletes doing press interviews now. And it's that professionalism of the sport. So I just love your thoughts on that, where, powerlifting, there are competitions with loud music and blasting and rah, 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 and there are federations that are dedicated to that, and the competitions are amazing. And I was chatting to Xavier from France in Tunisia. Now he was saying they had a flame machine at their nationals. I thought that was brilliant. I said, "Was that if you miss all three attempts?" But
Yeah, I would miss all three for sure.
yeah, absolutely. You're getting flamed. But I just think, like, in terms of your time in the sport and seeing it move towards far more professional conduct on the platform and all of that, how well do you think that's going to feed into sponsorship deals at competition level and at athlete level?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I'm not gonna comment on whether I think a rule is a good rule or,
Yeah.
or a bad rule. What I will say in sport is that if you look at nearly every professional sport or international sport around the world, every year they will introduce new rules.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them work, some of them don't work, and then usually they reassess for the following season or the following year as well. Um, so yeah, I mean, look, I mean, some rules are always going to be controversial. Some rules take a while for people to really adapt to.
Mm,
Professionalism in sport, is a really important thing as a sport grows. I mean, and powerlifting hasn't always had, I guess, the easiest of reputations. I mean, if
mm-hmm.
you go back 30 years or so, it was a bit of a cowboy sort of thing 40 years ago, in backyard gyms. But
Your squat
you
racks
know,
were on top of wheel rims. You know,
yeah, pretty
they
much,
weren't even
So
attached.
yeah, so I mean, I'm not going to say whether I think any of these rules are good or bad.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, but I guess we'll see how they go.
Mm.
Um,
But
I mean,
professionalism
if
is
you,
vital for the growth of the
yeah,
sport.
yeah, and and
Mm,
and so are rules as well. I
mm,
mean, if we look at, I mean, if you look at shot put in the Olympics, for
mm,
example,
mm,
when you finish your attempt, you can't step out the front of the circle.
mm, mm,
You have to walk back behind the line. So in a lot of sports, some of these rules are quite normal. And I imagine, in a lot of those sports, when they introduced those rules, there was a lot of resistance too.
mm.
And then they sort of
Yeah.
became part and parcel. I don't think any improvement in the area of sporting professionalism can ever will ever cause an issue with sponsorship.
Yeah. I
I
love
think that
that.
just
That's the
proves
yeah.
opportunities.
100%.
And having said that,
Mm.
I'm not saying that any of our athletes are unprofessional.
Yeah.
Our athletes are incredible how they
Sure.
have dealt with so many changes, and there have been rapid changes over the last decade in our level, in our
Mm,
broadcast, in our interviews. They have adapted to that so amazingly, that it's just, you have to take your hat off to the athletes in this sport for being able to adapt to that. I saw some of them in China being interviewed, in a media room in
Mm,
front of cameras for the first time, in their lives, and it was like they'd done it a million times before.
sure.
You know,
Phenomenal. Yeah,
so
absolutely. I absolutely love that. I think, and listen, there's no truth in the rumor, Gary. And firstly, before I say this, I have to commend you on that. I mean, it's really well said, and it's it's not up to us to judge or question the rules. Got to follow the rules and make sure that we support the growth
yeah.
of the sport. And then I have to say this just on a lighter note: there is no truth in the rumor that I went for a walk today to start losing weight again because I can no longer sink the bar in the bench press. So I might as well lose the tummy and go down a few weight divisions.
You can drop down to the
Yeah.
drop down to the 93s, mate.
Yeah, I think I want to get back to the 93s. I think it's going to be a little bit of fun. Started in 80,
Yeah,
in the 84, what 84s, what
yep.
83s, 84. I can only a cat two ref can't remember the weight division. We read the
We'll work
yeah.
on we'll work on that.
That's it. Yeah.
We'll review the rules after this.
After this, we read the rules before the comp because there's a lot for this
Yeah,
big head.
what rules?
Yeah, rules nonsense. So exactly, and listen, that was a fun group, but I do have to say 105, 120, 120 plus. In my experience, the best guys to hang out with at the back, particularly the 120 plus, because no one's grumpy because they've had to cut weight.
Well,
Yeah,
look, that's one of the things I really love about being in the
yeah,
under 120s is that I do not need to worry about trying to drop and cut weight before a competition.
absolutely.
I can have a big meal the night before, a big meal
Yeah,
before weigh-in. I got nothing to worry about.
it's
I
special.
can just
Yeah,
beat up all the carbs and just enjoy the day.
that's it. Yeah.
Although it does have its downside when there's a high humidity
Yeah,
and
you got to get the
it's
shirt
hot in
on.
the venue. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you see old Simon Bretsky with his ice pack across the back of his neck and his
Yeah.
and his little hand fan. You got to love him. But yeah, no, it's absolutely not fun. There's so much more I wanted to chat to you about, Gary, but I think this has been one of the best conversations that I've had. And I think particularly for all lifters, but also new lifters and coaches. I mean, you shared so much incredible information, knowledge, experience, and like the little diamonds, those insights. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. And we definitely want to get you back on. So if
Oh,
you're
thanks
up
for
for it.
having me. I always enjoy having a chat, and if I can if I can help
Yep.
anyone in any way with um, anything I've experienced throughout life, and I'm more than willing to share that.
Oh, thank you, Anne. And I'm off to the farm this, I think, on Thursday. So we're going to have that discussion that we spoke about, and then hopefully we can have something cool to announce
Yeah, that'd be
in, in
fantastic.
in
I'm looking
in the
forward to
coming
that.
days. That'll be absolutely awesome. Well, I'm going to shut down the stream, and then I'll just chat to you quickly off air. If there are any questions, I'll tag Gary in this as well. They can drop it in the comments. Maybe they can just ask it to you directly in the comments as well. But we'd love to get you back on and have you on again to chat to. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It's invaluable.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, yeah.
always happy to come along, man.
All right, awesome. Thank you. We'll be back with you shortly. Screen's going to go black. You know the drill. And for everyone else, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And I've got Kamal Nedja, the head of the African Powerlifting Federation, up tomorrow, 2 p.m. South Africa time. So that's
Oh,
also
great.
going to be a good one. All right, we'll be back with you in a few minutes, Gary. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us.